Rick Ross just pulled off what some are calling a $120 million hustle, and Big Meech might be the biggest pawn in the game. On the surface, it looked like a golden opportunity: movie deals, massive projects, and promises of empire-level success. But behind the glitz and the flashing cameras, the truth is far messier. While Ross played the charming mentor, 50 Cent was quietly running the real play, backing Lil Meech and keeping his legacy alive. And now, the streets are talking, social media is buzzing, and the drama behind the scenes is more shocking than anyone expected. From alleged betrayals to secret struggles, what really went down between Ross, 50, and Lil Meech is a story you've never heard before, and it's about to get wild.
I feel bad for Lil Meech. I don't feel bad for no grown man on this planet. Like, I'm a grown man. Why the I gotta feel bad for another grown man? Like, you a grown man too. What you asking for my sympathy for? You be alright.
When Big Meech walked out of prison back in October, the world expected a legendary comeback.
Ricky Rose, the time has come. Meech home. February 13th, get your tickets right now. It's going down. We know Florida gonna be there. Miami gonna be there. The legend himself gonna be in the building, making history. Meech, who else coming?
The whole nation. Detroit, St. Louis, California, everybody. Atlanta, Georgia, ATL, stand up.
Woo. We're gonna make history. Get your tickets.
Fans were ready to see the king reclaim his throne, to watch a street legend transform his past into a powerful empire. Hopes were sky high. Rumors started swirling about a massive $120 million film deal, flashy projects, and opportunities that could turn Meech's name into a household brand. It seemed like finally, the streets would see Meech rise not just as a legend, but as a businessman with real power. Then came Rick Ross, smooth, confident, and ready to charm. Ross stepped in like he had the key to everything Meech had ever dreamed of. Movie deals, empire-building promises, Hollywood connections. Ross dangled it all like bait on a hook, tempting Meech with a future painted in gold. On paper, it looked perfect. The streets were buzzing, cameras were flashing, and everyone believed the empire was finally about to be built. But underneath the surface, there were cracks forming, ones nobody saw coming, and they would change the game entirely. But when the smoke cleared, the shine started to fade, and the truth hit hard. Rick Ross didn't deliver. No film deals, no projects, no money. All the empire-building promises? Just smoke and mirrors. Big Meech and his son were left standing out in the cold, watching as Ross continued living lavishly, flashing his wealth, and boosting his own image while Meech's comeback stalled. Street insiders claimed they saw it coming from the start. Everyone knew the hustle was forming, everyone except Big Meech. Ross played the smooth operator, using Meech's name and reputation like a prop in a larger game. While fans believed the empire was about to rise, Ross was quietly flexing his own power and stirring tension in a rivalry that had nothing to do with Meech's future. Meanwhile, the one person who had been genuinely holding it down for Lil Meech, 50 Cent, kept working behind the scenes, financing acting lessons, producing the BM series, and opening doors that actually mattered. Ross, on the other hand, brought only hype, headlines, and empty promises. And yet, despite the obvious pattern, Meech leaned closer to Ross, blinded by the glimmer of fame and fortune, not realizing he was being played. While Ross was all flash and no follow-through, 50 Cent was quietly running the real play behind the scenes. He wasn't out for headlines or clout, he was building an actual legacy. From the very start, 50 financed Lil Meech's acting lessons, helped him navigate the BM series, and opened doors that turned a street king's son into a legitimate star. Every step of Meech's rise was backed by strategy, not empty promises. The streets noticed the difference immediately. While Ross was flexing for cameras and stirring drama, 50 Cent was the one making moves that mattered. He showed up when it counted, guiding Lil Meech through rehearsals, productions, and the realities of fame, keeping the young star on track even when mistakes were made. Meanwhile, Ross' influence started to unravel. Meech was being left stranded, caught in a game he didn't fully understand. And yet, despite all of 50E's support, Meech kept leaning toward Ross. Part of it was the allure of big money and Hollywood promises, part of it was ego. But every choice came with a cost. The tension wasn't just on the surface. It was building behind the scenes, setting the stage for one of the most public clashes in recent hip-hop history. The streets had a front row seat to the fallout, and nobody could look away. The drama went from behind-the-scenes tension to full-blown public spectacle when 50 Cent decided to step in. Using his signature trolling style, he didn't just call out Rick Ross, he exposed the layers of manipulation for the world to see. One of the most infamous jabs? Claiming Ross told Lil Meech to hand over his father's address just so he could send some Wingstop wings. It was hilarious on the surface, but the message was sharp. Ross wasn't supporting Meech. He was playing games for clout, but the trolling didn't stop there. 50 also hinted at Lil Meech's struggles behind the cameras, arriving intoxicated, losing focus during filming, and even incidents involving nitrous oxide canisters in his truck. The streets were watching, and 50 framed himself as the grown man keeping things on track while others spiraled. Meanwhile, Ross continued to play the charming mentor for the cameras, leaving Meech's legacy dangling in the balance. Fans and social media exploded. Memes, jokes, and debates painted Meech as outplayed, and the commentary wasn't just about Ross clout, it was about misplaced loyalty. Even as Meech partied with Ross, smiled for cameras, and leaned into the Hollywood hype, the streets weren't fooled. The public narrative was clear. Ross was in it for himself, and Meech was paying the price for trusting the wrong man. Industry insiders weren't staying quiet either. Michael Rainey, JRB, made waves, bluntly saying he didn't feel sorry for Lil Meech or Big Meech, pointing out that grown men should have seen this coming.
I feel bad for Lil Meech. I don't feel bad for no grown man on this planet. Like, I'm a grown man. Why the I gotta feel bad for another grown man? Like, you a grown man too. What you asking for my sympathy for? You be alright.
His clip spread like wildfire across social media, amplifying the perception that Meech had been played. 50 Cent quickly backed him up, doubling down on the message that Ross moves were all for show, not loyalty. Wack 100 didn't hold back either, calling Ross the real villain behind the curtain. According to him, Ross never had Meech's best interests at heart. He was a manipulator using someone else's legacy to boost his own name.
A guy, I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No,
No? You think 50?
no,
Lil Meech.
no.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to Meech,
If Ross truly cared about building something meaningful, Wack argued he would have handled it quietly, working in the shadows instead of broadcasting it for headlines. Instead, everything was about Ross, the deals, the attention, the shine. Meech became a pawn in a game that wasn't even his own. This wasn't a one-time pattern either. Ross history shows a consistent blueprint: alliances built on self-interest that always leave someone else holding the short end of the stick. From the rise of MG to partnerships gone wrong, the stories paint a picture of calculated ego and manipulation. And now, Big Meech had stepped right into the same trap, thinking he was gaining a kingmaker, only to find himself standing in the shadows while Ross soaked up the spotlight. Rick Ross moves with Big Meech weren't new, they fit a familiar pattern. Over the years, Ross has built his empire by borrowing other people's stories and legacies. His entire persona started with the real Rick Ross, the street legend whose name, image, and reputation he used to create a multi-million-dollar brand. When the original Rick Ross confronted him, even taking legal action, Ross didn't back down, he doubled down, profiting even harder off the myth he built. The same strategy repeated with Larry Hoover, another incarcerated icon. Ross dropped references to Hoover in songs, interviews, and visuals, stacking wealth on someone else's story. And now with Big Meech, it looks like history repeating itself. Another borrowed name, another manipulated legacy, another man left in the shadows while Ross basked in the spotlight. The pattern is undeniable. Ross thrives on other people's legacies, turning real pain and reputation into profit. Meanwhile, 50 Cent has been playing a completely different game. Where Ross chases headlines, 50 builds real empires. He invests in talent, strategizes behind the scenes, and turns opportunities into tangible outcomes. The streets see it, the fans see it, and the insiders know it. Ross may be playing checkers, but 50 is running chess. And in the middle of it all, Big Meech is left to wonder if loyalty was ever worth it or if he was just outplayed in a much bigger hustle. The streets didn't take long to weigh in, and the verdict was harsh. Social media exploded with memes, hot takes, and debates painting Big Meech as outplayed and outmaneuvered. Comments called Ross a fraud and accused him of chasing clout while leaving Meech stranded. Fans weren't just entertained, they were frustrated, seeing a once legendary figure caught in someone else's game. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's reputation only grew stronger. The contrast between him and Ross was impossible to ignore, one building empires, the other chasing validation. Insiders and fans alike began pointing out the clear pattern. Anyone who aligns with Ross eventually learns the hard way that loyalty is temporary, but clout is forever. Big Meech, who once seemed untouchable, now looked like a pawn in a larger scheme. His legacy vulnerable to manipulation and empty promises. The situation raised a bigger question for the culture. How many more people will get caught up in Ross' orbit before realizing the game? The streets were watching, the industry was talking, and the lesson was clear when it comes to alliances in hip-hop. History has shown that Ross' playbook favors himself above everyone else. And in the end, it wasn't just about money or fame, it was about power, control, and who really holds the keys to the game. What this saga really shows is how loyalty, legacy, and manipulation intersect in hip-hop. Alliances can look golden on the surface, but behind closed doors, the game is often about power and self-interest. Big Meech walked into promises of empire and grandeur, only to find himself navigating a web of clout, ego, and calculated moves. Meanwhile, 50 Cent quietly built real opportunities, proving that strategy beats spectacle every time. So the question for the culture and for you is this: was Big Meech truly outplayed, or did he simply misplace his trust? The line between loyalty and being used is thin, and in a world where names and legacies carry weight, one wrong move can change everything. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Meech made a mistake, or was Ross the real mastermind here? Hit that like button if you want more deep dives into the untold stories of hip-hop, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown. Stick around for the next video. We're just getting started uncovering the moves behind the music, and trust me, the streets have a lot more to say.